can you tell us who's gonna be first, second, third?
Well, it is as on the poster. So you
Okay.
are actually you are the second speaker. Okay, so Bea, I think we are ready to start.
Okay. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to tourismwebinar.com. Our topic today is mental health and travel. And as we are smack dab in the middle of holiday season, it's an even more important topic that's on people's minds. And in our business, I think we see the relevance. We're all in the tourism industry here, and we can see how important it is to change our mindset. But I'm going to read the paragraph that explains it. The importance of mental health, happiness, and well-being in our daily lives is highly recognized and sought after. How does this relate to the context of travel and tourism? So I'd like to welcome all of you that are listening on YouTube, on tourismwebinar.com, on Instagram, on Facebook. However you're listening, we're happy to see you. And if people aren't able to listen to all of it at this time, it will be archived and available always. And every speaker, and we have 7 or 8 of them, gets only 10 minutes to speak. But if something about what they're saying whets your appetite, you can always go to www.tourismwebinar.com and find all their contact information and also this live recording. So we have a lot of people on board today. We'd like to particularly welcome Talib Rifai, who was for 8 years the Secretary General of the UNWTO. Welcome, Talib.
Thank you so much, Ria. Thank you,
And
you're very kind.
This is underneath the umbrella of IIPT, which is the International Institute of Peace Through Tourism. And we'll soon see, if we don't already, that this is the perfect topic for peace through tourism. And one thing I was just reading yesterday is that there's an uptick in empathy and cooperation, which happens to people when they travel. And I think we've all discovered that. It can lower the risk of depression. Getting ourselves out of our ritual and environment can just change us into a different way of thinking that lifts us out of some very dark moods that people have. Having new experiences is beneficial for brain function and boosting your mental health. It's been linked to stress reduction and can alleviate symptoms of anxiety and depression. One excellent therapy for anorexia, for example, one mental health condition, is taking a person and taking them out of their environment and bringing them somewhere else where they can learn different ways of doing things. And often that just awakens something. It awakens something that makes our lives a lot better. It makes you happier. Travel lets you disconnect and recharge. It relieves stress and anxiety. It exposes you to new things. It exposes others to you, which has been a wonderful thing throughout history. It makes you physically healthier and can boost your creativity, reduces job burnout, and I'm almost done here, and it can do a sleepless mind some good. But I'm not the specialist here. We have several professors, we have a spa owner, we have someone involved in transformational travel, and that's what it's all about, transformational travel. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce our first guest today, who's Professor Sandro Formica. He's a visiting professor at the Florida International University, where he teaches leadership, personal empowerment, and managing self and others. Through his teaching, Sandro has helped thousands of current and future business leaders become more successful. His leadership work focuses on cultivating inner strength, practicing modeling, strengthening self-esteem, and creating a goal-based leadership plan. His personal empowerment and managing self and others work instead focuses on core values, human needs, emotions, and how to reprogram the subconscious mind to reach goals easily and effectively. Let's welcome Professor Sandro Formica. The stage is yours. I think, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. I know I have 10 minutes, so I'll make sure I'll check my timer right now, and I am going to share a brief presentation, and this is about business and business in terms of hospitality, so the hospitality side of tourism, and well-being. And especially, I've been engaged in presenting or certifying managers in to become chief happiness officers in the field of hospitality. And I wanted to share with you a few elements about this Chief Happiness Officer certification, which I'm running with Florida International University, as well as the World Happiness Summit. Yes, there is a World Happiness Summit, and it has been held for many years in Miami. And I'm proud to say now that next year it will be held in Lake Como, Italy. So it's wonderful to know that is going to be in my neck of the woods, and here we go. Since we have a few minutes, I don't want to waste additional time, and I would like to share with you. So the Chief Happiness Officer program has 4 competencies. And the first is positive self-leadership. And what I wanted to share with you, and again, I'm not trying to push this program at all. I just wanted to share with you some of the concepts, and I would love to get feedback from you. We believe that there were 4 major competencies to learn about happiness, well-being, and hospitality, and we need to start from within. It's an inside-out type of strategy. So the first is positive leadership. The second is stress, engagement, and flow. The third is building positive relationships. And the fourth is basically putting everything together. So using processes and procedures to make it happen, to make employees first feel better and eventually be more productive. So I want to share with you also the results that I got from by measuring a few constructs related to participants before and after this type of experience, so that we can certainly associate it with the topic of today. So if you look at positive self-leadership is what I'm really passionate about. I'm teaching these courses of personal empowerment in hospitality and managing self and others in hospitality as well. And it's a model that starts with needs and goes all the way to life plan. So the point is that there are these areas of study that are made extremely practical, and I'm not kidding you. I mean, I basically lecture maybe 5 to 10% of the time, and then there are all experiential exercises. And then eventually from needs, we go to values and talents and skills and so on and so forth. And then with the life plan, we put the entire, all the elements together to make it as complete and wholesome as possible. So here are some of the results that I want to share with you, and probably you will have a hard time to see them, but I'll pick a few of those results before and after, and that's the percentage change. For example, the effects of self-awareness, did they change? And some of the most significant, not statistically significant in terms of numbers here, is I'm content with my work situation, which changed, increased 26%, or I find making changes is difficult and scary, decreased 24%. Happiness. As you can see, in most ways, my life is close to my ideal, increased 16%. I'm satisfied with my life, increased 20%. If I compare myself with other colleagues, increased 27% in terms of happiness. And you see also loneliness went down 20 and 28% when they were asked if they lack companionship or they feel left out. Also, it had an effect on coping. So here we are talking about aspects that relate to resilience. As you can see, sometimes I feel I'm pushed around in life, went down significantly, and I have a little control over the things that happen to me. Again, negative, and so on. Well-being at work, for example, I'm aware of all my needs at work went up 27%, whereas I feel I'm in a state of survival, which is so important for mental health, went down. When I'm at work, went down by 40%. And finally, then we asked a few questions related to values and to purpose, to meaning, and so what is significant in life. So this gives you a sense, if you want, of something that to me it's fascinating, because we are in an industry, tourism and hospitality. I mean, this should be the happiness industry in a way. But when I do work with hospitality companies as well as tourism companies, I do see that they, if they do connect to it, they connect more with the physical wellness, so spas, and which is very, very important. But well-being and happiness is not limited to that. And I want to give you a quick example before I close my presentation. When we start doing the work and we ask, and we do the work on needs, because everything we do is based on meeting one or more needs. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. And it's fascinating that when I ask them if they know the needs of their employees, they have a hard time. They don't. And so I ask them to guess then. And so they make an educated guess in their opinion about those needs. And then I asked the employees to complete a table where they had to specify the top 5 needs, the percentage of satisfaction of those needs, the person that they somehow empowered to meet those needs, and what this person should do to meet those needs completely. And sure enough, they are 2 totally different sets of needs that I see. So I can tell that in reality, we need to do some serious work on this, because if needs are not met, and science is very clear on this, we go on survival. So how can we be happy or have mental health? We just feel we are in an environment where we need to be very, very careful about, people, others who are not supportive of meeting our needs, and so on and so forth. So when we start from step 1, we could tell that there is so much work to be done. And I'm still fascinated that we do not have some branding or some sort of certification of destinations in terms of happiness. That would be wonderful, and I hope we could see it soon. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so very much for yours. And one thing I'm going to be interested in hearing about from people is, how far do you have to go to achieve this? Because staycations are great, but traveling to a whole different culture is wonderful too. Next, we're going to hear from Dr. Birgit Trauer. Her life journey is replete with extensive experiences in the fields of leisure, travel, and tourism, both in industry and in academia. She holds a PhD in tourism management from the University of Queensland, where I will be in a couple of weeks. I can't wait. Her thesis explores the nature of adventure tourism experiences, focusing on behavioral, cognitive, and emotional involvement and real and perceived risk as a way to conceptualize special interest tourism. Let's welcome Birgit Trauer, Dr. Birgit Trauer. Oh, and we must unmute to hear your lovely voice. We don't hear you yet. Dr. Trower, I can see you speaking, but I can't hear you yet. Does anyone hear? No.
No,
Uh-oh.
I don't hear her as well. So maybe we move to the next speaker.
Okay. So Dr. Laszlo Pucko, are you ready? He's been working in the field of travel, hospitality, leisure, and health for over 25 years. Laszlo is an experienced engineer, strategist, mentor, and trainer, and well-being intelligence expert. He's gained experiences in private as well as in public sector environments, and has been active in every aspect of the domain of health, well-being, and the travel spectrum. For example, medical and wellness tourism, well-being and hospitality, spas and leisure experiences. Laszlo has been lecturing and running tailor-made trainings and master classes in over 40 countries, and he's here to speak with us today. Let's welcome Dr. Laszlo Pucko.
Thank you very much, and good morning, good evening. I can see that that's a wide spectrum of participants we have today from all corners of the world, so it's great to see that. And thank you very much for the invite, much appreciated. And I also will share a couple of slides with the participants, more like initiating a discussion, initiating some exchange, if you will, because the invitation was to talk a little bit about what the let's say the happiness domain can learn from the medical side and the wellness side and hospitality side. So that's kind of a very, very quick overview. If you let me start the discussion right away. Just need to share my slides with you. Yes, here we go. Right. So very really briefly, does it really make us happy or happier? I think it's since we have a couple of participants or many participants who are coming from academia side and also industry side, is a good exchange, I believe, because we will need to learn from the other party. So I wanted to really highlight the differences in well-being. I prefer to use well-being and less so wellness. It's a little bit overused and a little bit tired, the terminology, overstretched on too many things by now. So I prefer to use well-being, which is an academically rooted terminology, especially that's two. One is the so-called eudaimonic well-being, when people feel happy, if they experience life purpose, challenges, and growth. Obviously, it can come in all that many different ways and forms. But in the ways of travel, we have a lot of different options. And the other end of the spectrum is what we call the hedonic well-being, when pleasure and decreased pain leads to happiness. And often in many languages, we are here with representing all that many cultures and languages, the term hedonism may not be considered as a positive term. It's often considered to be a selfish or if anything, but more like a neutral, but maybe negative terminology. But in this field, we believe that just because you know what makes you happy or happier doesn't necessarily make you selfish. It's more like creating an awareness that you understand yourself. But obviously, it can go easily to the other end and just ignoring everybody else. So obviously, that's a negative aspects to it. But let me share one of the points which I really like from the World Health Organization, since many people talk about lifespan, or we have been looking at lifespan in the last couple of decades, but the recommendation is now to look at health span, not just the numbers, but more like how we spend those days and years that we have and what's our own responsibility of doing so. I really advocate that kind of change in terms of how we look at life, especially since probably many of you've seen this little summary, which is a very good one I really like, which is about the wellness scam as such, with the goops and the gurus and the cults and all those products and groups and services that's available, people can find online. And I think the key aspect to this is that it's not grounded or doesn't have the evidence. People buy in this business hope. That's what we sell. That we live a better life, we live a happier life, we look better, or we look healthier. But what we don't want to buy is that we actually need to do something about it. So it's happy to buy a product that should make us happier or healthier, but we don't always take the responsibility ourselves that actually we have something to do about all this. What I really like to focus on is the overview of where we are and what's happening. And when you look at the healthy services and the health tourism spectrum, either medical or the wellness side, you can see that people used to be very happy to have certain healthy services. Yes, that's a good idea. Oh, we have a fruit juice in the minibar. That's lovely. You wouldn't ask for it, but yeah, that's a lovely idea. I'm happy to take it. In medical side, people often need to travel, and it doesn't make them happy, but it makes them have a decision that we have to do this, otherwise I have to wait, or I have to just spend too much time on something else, which doesn't make me healthier. But it's a stressful decision. Whereas the wellness side is often considered to be the happy side, because it's voluntary and you decide, you do something that makes you feel or makes you look better. And of course, that refers to happiness, directly or indirectly. What's changed after the COVID-19 world pandemic, that what was considered to be a nice to have and the healthy services changed to, I do want to. I'm not just happy to have it, but now I want to have it. And people are very happy to look for alternatives and options that doesn't make them health tourists or wellness tourists or any such thing, but they're happy to look at options that could even provide a quick win in terms of increasing happiness or well-being. We did a study with the Wellness Tourism Association and looked for triggers, not services. I think it's a major difference. We're looking for triggers. What make people potentially look for wellness improving services? And you can see the various aspects to it, and anybody, of course, interested, and we can very happily provide the actual whole report on it.
Excuse me, Ladji, I'm sorry. You forget to move your PowerPoint. You are just fixed on the first slide. So,
well, that's my, unfortunately, that's my stupid that's my stupid Zoom is doing it because actually
just click on the second slide. Okay, yes.
And I'm, what I see that I can see that moving, but you can't.
No, we can see it now. Yeah. Now we are on the third slide. So on the sixth slide. Yeah.
Yes, but sadly, that shouldn't be like this. And that's, I don't know what, on my computer, Zoom is playing.
Laszlo, can we see the overview?
Yes, you can see the overview, Sharon. Okay. That's no problem.
Thank you.
I really tried to do something about it, but it's just something weird that Zoom is playing with me. But, there you go. That's what Zoom is doing. Actually, I will stop the sharing and we restart the discussion, as in sharing, because that's just crazy. Sorry about this. And, technical glitches you have often. So that's what it is just at the moment. Anyway, if anything, keep it this way, because that's for sure. Anyway, here are the triggers for you. There you go. And you can see the various differences that we can have in terms of what make people buy wellness services. And those are not services, don't forget, these are triggers, the deep psychological triggers. And from self-healing to belonging and escapism. What makes it even more exciting is that we are doing actually, now we are mapping what triggers for men, because most market is looking at women, as you know, that most products and communication targeting women. But now we're looking at what can trigger men for wellness-related services, and that's a very different setup when you look at it. Just quickly, I think in terms of happiness, we need to understand how we create mental spaces. And mental spaces in terms of gaining experiences and how we create those mental spaces. So of course, there's a whole literature about it, but I think it's important because the leisure and tourism sector creates those mental places, and consumers are actually creating their own version of those mental places. And why that's important? Because of this, because many people travel because there's a cheap flight and they don't quite really know why they end up at a certain destination. And that's, I really like this terminology, it's called destination. And we really want to avoid that. And that's why we have to work on the mental place definition and creation. Also important in terms of happiness is imaginative hedonism. I believe many of you have come across this terminology that is associated with certain benefits, and anticipation is not just the consumption itself, but anticipation itself, it contributes to hedonism, which is the subjective part of happiness. You know, examples like this, which, for example, in Canada could be a good example right now, if you have a lot of snow there, probably behind you, that you can do entertainment and wellness combined, which is the terminology is called snowga, which is yoga in snow. That's snowga, and obviously that's not someone who is a very hardcore yoga person, but those who are happy to take on something different and something new. And of course, it becomes a hedonistic experience, such as creating, looking at scapes, the whole terminology of scapes, such as a landscape, a very simple arm and the representation of that palm and overlooking the horizon also contributes obviously to happiness and the well-being of the person. Natural spectacles, just like floating in natural hot springs. These are all hedonistic experiences, such as the sandscapes. When, let's say, in South Korea, you can go to a hot spring with ginseng in it, because that's a local traditional healing input and a healing concept. I mean, built on the ginseng itself, and they mixing it with hot springs, and then you can take it on. Or you just want to visit the dreamscape, which makes you, again, very happy because it's the exclusivity, not the price of it, more like the location of it. But my favorite is this one, which is a soundscape, when you are basically lying down in a little bed, and these amplifiers amplify the sound of nature. This is, again, not the price, it's the contribution to your physical and mental well-being. In the time of being smart, in the hotel, you can have a little bed provided for the mobile phone, suggesting that you need to leave your phone alone because it's not good for you to do that. And also social aspects, such as taking part in a little public bath, if you wish, something like that. But these are all tiny elements. These are not wellness touristy things. These are just creating a service that can contribute to someone. We also talk about regeneration a lot, regenerative travel, and it's often looking at destinations, but I really would like to suggest a double regeneration, which is looking at how the travel contributes to the well-being of the traveler, and not just to the destination, but the traveler, and harmonizing the two. So it's not just a traditional understanding of regenerative travel. Obviously, you need the whole landscape to create all this, from resources to technology, education, the media, governance, indications of planning and guidance of planning for developers, because they don't know how to improve well-being and how to include local assets in that sense. So they need to have a lot of input from government, local government, and they really would like to see more well-being stories from all around the world. So why I'm quoting this, and because the summary is, I probably have seen this little character, and he was a famous character during COVID. That study shows that watching a beaver eating cabbage lowers stress by 17%. Obviously, we want to create something way more important than this. And that's why we, for example, looked at the well-being concepts, and probably you will find anything that it's closer to your location or your culture or religion or tradition, because we looked at 42 different well-being concepts from all around the world. What people do to keep themselves happy and how that can be translated to leisure and hospitality services. I think that would be a very stimulating discussion when we have a next, let's say, webinar on this, because they are amazing, all those well-being concepts. I don't know how many of those you have ever come across, but they're absolutely fantastic. And just to really wrap it up, to some, this is happiness, just to being able to balance some stones. And obviously just the balancing itself, the activity has the necessary cortisol impact, it has the necessary happiness impact, and the success in the end. And also ideas such as this, which is a COVID related new design of how to do yoga, whereas you have architecture, you have landscape design, as well as yoga activities, and you create a very different proposition. Or you take part of a culturally defined skin improvement practice, participating in Japan, for example, taking the hot lava stones, not that hot, but warm lava around your body, and then the necessary minerals absorbing through your skin. These are all interesting, at the same time, wellness improving facilities and services. Don't forget, as really is something you to take home as insights, engagement levels can really differ from accidental to lifestyle-based interests. Not everybody is interested in all of this. Some of them would be just curious, some of them want to have some hybrid, and some of them dedicated, but not necessarily lifestyle related. So you would need to look into how you are defining your services locally. And when everybody says that, oh, well, wellness is just a niche, we don't need to care about that, or medical is just a niche, all of these, we work with all that many destinations around the world. We can include wellness improving services in any of these tourism forms and even beyond, but you have to find a way to do it. It's not a standard thing. You have to find your way of doing so. So if anything you want to take home in terms of the bottom line and take home messages, you do need to define your well-being assets and your well-being stories. You have to help service providers and destination management parties of how to translate that into services, how to introduce it to potential markets. Because I don't believe in the next 5 global trends publications. You do have local references, you do have local characteristics, so you do need to tribute those, and you need to really understand those. And don't forget that everybody's talking about fear of missing out, but probably we need to think of joy of missing out, especially when we have some mental stress, especially coming from social media and anything beyond. So FOMO, replace it with JOMO. And thank you very much. I'm really sorry about the technicalities.
That was wonderful, Dr. Krusko. Thank you so much. That was, I'm going to look back at that one myself later. You have some incredible points. I wonder if Dr. Birgit Trauer is ready again for us.
B, can we have the definition of JOMO again before he's ready?
The definition
of joy of missing out, Sharon, not fear of missing out, but joy of missing out.
Thank you.
Once again, all of the slides and contact information will be on the website afterwards. All the PowerPoints, everything. So you can look back on it at a later date. And Dr. Trauer, I think I'm still not hearing you. My goodness. It seems like a technical difficulty.
Yeah, I think, yeah, she has other application using her microphone. It happens to me too. So restart your computer or something. Yeah. And
we'll try you again later. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to move along then to Dr. Danny Zheng, if she's ready, an assistant professor in the Department of Tourism at Fudan University in China. She was listed in the top young 40 researchers in Australia, the rising stars in the early achievers leadership in 2020, and the Shanghai Pujang Talent in China in 2022. She received her PhD degree and was granted the Best PhD Thesis Award in the School of Business at the University of Queensland, Australia. She used her work at the School of Tourism Management at Sun Yat-sen University in China and the School of Business at the University of Queensland. So we're quite delighted to be able to share those skills with our audience over here. So we welcome Dr. Danny Zheng.
Okay, thank you, Broda. I will share my screen. Okay. Just wait for a moment. Okay, cool. Thanks for Dr. Reza and Dr. Birgit's invitation. I'm very honored to attend this tourism webinar and to share our latest research with international audience and under the topic of mental health, happiness, and tourism. In the past 1 year, we are excited to initiate these projects, aiming to explore the vulnerable populations with psychological disorders in tourism by interdisciplinary perspective. So to begin with, please allow me to simply introduce our research team. Me and Dr. Jin Wang, we are the young tourism researchers, and we are delighted to invite 4 distinguished professors from different areas, including Professor Wang and Professor Ho, who are the specialists in public health and medical science, and Professor Metin Kozak and Professor Yan Por, they are specialists in marketing and consumer behaviors. So because of this diversity, it allows us to think out of the box to try to conduct more innovative research via interdisciplinary lens. And the reason why we're especially focusing on the vulnerable populations with psychological disorders, we can see it's because of some figures. We can see some figures calculated by WHO here. 1 in every 8 people was living with a mental disorder, more than 970 million individuals worldwide in 2019. Not to mention the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic and the world economic crisis, expansion of social media. We can see there is a 26% increase in the number of people living with anxiety, and in 28% increase in the number of people living with major depressive disorder. And there is a population which has always been neglected in tourism research, which are the number of people who are living with dementia symptoms. The number of people living with dementia will likely surpass 139 million in 2050, with a 7.7 million annual increase worldwide. So what can we do as a tourism scholars? So can we help to prevent, treat, or improve the general health of vulnerable populations by tourism? If we want to do that, how can we achieve that? And what might be the potential implications for the medical science? What are the challenges? And what might be the future research directions? So with all these questions, we started our research. And as a tourism scholar, we always learn that tourism experience can create so many well-being benefits, including the different tourism experiences can generate the positive emotions such as joy, pleasure, positive surprise, and it can create very good memories, improve people's socialization, and the happiness, quality of life, subjective well-being are always the center of tourism research. However, we're mainly talking about this issue targeting the healthy tourists, while those vulnerable groups who are also eligible to travel has always been neglected. So can travel be applied as a therapy for those vulnerable groups? Are there any theoretical or empirical evidence to prove that? And so we recently published a paper which is entitled Tourism as a Dementia Treatment Based on Positive Psychology in Tourism Management. And this paper, we are very surprised to see a very positive feedback. this paper has drawn much attention from the public media, including the medical scholars, as well as even some dementia and their dementia caregivers. So this gives us much encourage to continue our study. So this paper actually is a conceptual paper. We try to discuss the potential relationships between travel and medical treatment of dementia. And we also try to explore the nexus, whether there are some nexus between tourism experiences and the non-pharmacological dementia interventions. And we try to explain this, the theoretical underpinnings by a lens of positive psychology. And in the end, in this paper, we suggest some innovative but visible ways to treat tourism as a potential dementia intervention. So because of time limit, I just simply discuss some major findings of our research. And in this research, we systematically review some empirical tourism research. So we can see that the positive psychology series, such as the broaden and build theory of positive emotions, the theory of human flourishing, flow theory, mindfulness series, have always been certified in tourism context. We know that the tourism experience, all different kinds of tourism experience can generate much well-being benefits. However, when we further examine the dementia treatment from the medical perspective, we found that dementia disease right now is non-preventable or curable. So it is mainly it can be divided into two different types of interventions, including the pharmacological and non-pharmacological interventions. And we know that currently there is limited effects of the pharmacological interventions. But we find some positive outcomes from the non-pharmacological ways, such as change the environment, settle the mealtime routine using the positive psychological interventions, the musical therapy, etc. However, this kind of interventions always occurred in the consultation room, the hospitals, or the patient's daily life settings. And in tourism, we're always talking about tourism related to people living or travel with an unusual environment. And it can easily generate some hedonic experience and happiness. So find this possible. So integrating tourism to the positive psychological interventions, it might prevent some optimal well-being outcomes. So in this paper, we suggest several tourism interventions by dividing tourism experience into 4 dimensions, including the affective, cognitive, and sensorial experiences. For instance, when we travel in long-term holidays or mindfulness tourism, we can easily, it can help the dementia patients to savor in the positive memories, the positive moments of travel. And we know in the positive psychological interventions, they always suggest people to think about the positive experience, to try to conduct the goal-directed thinking and the positive future thinking. And we know when we are going to on a trip, so this tourism activity normally engage in planning, the anticipation, the visiting, learning, and remembering the past travel experiences, and all of which can be very positive for these patients. And also positive psychology approaches such as expressing the gratitude, the active constructive responding, or the group positive therapy can easily occur when people are engaged in the group tours, the family trips, or the interactions between tourists and hosts. So, and we know that tourism experience always be sensorial. So if we engage in like beach, landscape, or music-related travel, or even visual reality travel, it can help people to invoke the sensory recall, goal-oriented motivation, and a sense of achievement. So this paper just suggests some potential directions that people probably can find more answers for these dementia patients. And however, when we need more empirical evidence, and we know that if we targeting for the vulnerable groups, we may face some methodology challenges. So we recently written another paper discussing about the methodological challenges and the potential solutions by discussing how to recruit the patients and how to maintain and retain and collect the research data, and how to design the research to better provide a robust result evidence, which can be also applied for the medical science. And we hope that in the future, more tourism scholars can get involved to engage in this promising research direction. And also our research team will continue to do so. And recently we actually published and drafted several publications discussing like tourists with suboptimal health status, the vulnerable hotel guests, the dementia and caregivers. We are collecting the data to trying to do more empirical research, and also we're trying to explore like the role of tourism for the tourists with anxiety and depressions. So hopefully in the future, me or Dr. Jin Wang, we can share our future research outcomes with the audience. And thanks for listening. If you are interested in our project, you are more than welcome to contact with me or Dr. Jin Wang. And this is my email. I'm looking forward to communicate with you on this meaningful research topic. Thank you.
Dr. Dene Zhang, thank you so much. I think I could be a student in your classroom for hours and hours.
Thank you.
And also, if one does contact you, is it possible to see and read those papers that you refer to?
Yeah, sure. No worries.
Some of the research study. And I just had one quick question too, is what population are you testing? And is there an age range for them? Or is this just people in general that you're testing?
We are testing. Yeah, actually, we are collecting all sorts of data. For example, we are collecting data from the people who have early dementia symptoms, and they are able to answer the questions and to do the interviews. So actually, we already collected some interview data, but we still need to spend some time to work on those data. And also, we have contact data with the other vulnerable groups, like with the mental disorder symptoms. So yeah, it's a huge project. So probably it spends years, but yeah, our research team are very active to do that. And we find a very big like the support from the professors and the medical science scholars. So we are very grateful for that.
Thank you very much. I'm thrilled that this is being empirically studied like this. So I'm going to look for those papers myself. Thank you. We're going to move along to Dr. Rohan Bala, who's a PhD from the Department of Tourist and Hospitality Management, the Faculty of Management Studies from New Delhi, India. We're all over the map today. He's a gold medalist in management and tourism studies at the postgraduate level. He's an avid researcher and has written research papers in ABCD and Scopus Index journals and book chapters for international publishers. His area of interest is transformational tourism, spirituality, spiritual tourism, happiness and mindfulness, regenerative tourism, rural tourism, organizational behavior, human resource management, mental health and well-being, psychology, sociology, and personality development programs. So it's with pleasure we present Dr. Rohan Bala.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words. I won't take much time and start directly with the presentation. Though it's unfortunate that I'm unable to share my presentation slides today, but I'll be sending it to you so that everyone can see that on the website. My sincere greeting foremost to all the people who are attending this very significant program, event, webinar. The world has started talking about mental health today. And, you know, it's very recent that we recognize the significance of mental health and well-being and words like happiness. Thanks to COVID, somehow, like it brought the mental health to the central stage of examination, but the undercurrent of the mental health issues were always present. So I begin with the quote that Socrates said once: if you don't get what you want, you suffer. If you get what you don't want, you suffer. Even when you get exactly what you want, you still suffer because you cannot hold on it forever. And that's the irony of a human life. Most of us are worried, or in fact, not clear about our own existence as human beings. And that brings to the bigger question: who are we? So whenever we are struggling from some mental health issue, we are exposed to bigger questions in life. Now, if you go back to the evolution of human, we have spent more than 99% of our time from our existence in nature. It is like we spend our time as nomads. And if you look at the evolution of human from the very old ancestors of our, where we were animals, we developed ourselves into someone who is spending most of the time before screens, before telephones, before computers, laptop. And then we try to have some sort of detoxification from technology, from social media, from screen time. We are talking about it. The problem is we all are running behind growth, development, but we are ascertaining it or understanding it very wrongly. I give you three major reasons that is a root cause of mental health issues prevailing worldwide, irrespective of gender, irrespective of the community that you belong to, be it a vulnerable community or a dominant one or whatsoever. Happiness is something which is basic, essential for the survival of mankind. But how we are ruining it, how it is impacting us, our mental health. Number one, we all are busy doing our material possession. We all are running behind securing our comforts and luxuries. Number two, overconsumption of everything in terms of food, in terms of I want a bigger car every single year, and that is how we are presuming our growth. I want a bigger house, irrespective if I am living in that house all alone. And then we want happiness. We want to be happy. Doesn't matter if you are riding or if you are driving a Ferrari or just riding a bicycle. If you do not know the art of being happy, there is no point of accumulating wealth, which is my problem number three. So material possession, overconsumption, and wealth accumulation. We all are surrounded by these three things while we are progressing, or I should say we are so-called progressing in this human civilization. So this is what we say, what I say, that in terms of our wrong deeds. Look at it, think deeply. I request you all to think deeply. Are you still happy, securing all the comforts and luxuries and material possessions in life? I give you a beautiful quote by Lenny. None of those material possessions do anything to make your life any better. I know a lot of people who have a lot of everything, and they are absolutely the most miserable people in the world. So it won't do anything for you unless you are a happy person and can have peace within yourself. And that is how we'll connect mental health and happiness now. You cannot be happy if you are not mentally fit. You can only have a joy if you have a good mental health condition. Now think at it, how we understand happiness. One of the scholars before me spoke about hedonic experiences and eudaimonic experiences. Yes, hedonic is some sort of selfish concept which talks about making yourself happy. But look at it, how we are making ourselves happy through objects that are outside us. We are generating our happiness from things that are outside us, like car, or maybe a good home, or maybe through a luxury travel, and then clicking a picture and posting over the social media. Are you still happy? No. Sometimes when we reach our bed, we cry. There are concepts coming up in very developed countries of the world, as far as I know, in the United States, where people are even paying $100 just to call someone who can give you a cuddle and make you sleep comfortably. Irrespective of all the resources, you are unable to sleep properly. So mental health leads to happiness. But what sort of interventions do we have when we are tackling mental health issues? So for my country, I'll give you a most horrific data, I should call it. India, being one of the most developing country in the world, has been ranked as #1. It is the suicide capital of the world, sharing 18% of the total suicide that takes place in the world. Can you imagine? The growth, the youngest country in the world, we are in the stage of demographic dividend, but we are not mentally fit because everyone is running behind the dynamics of, securing comfort and luxury of life, having a car, earning a 2-time meal. But this is not what we actually need as a human to live a life. And that is what I say, that while we are free to choose our actions, we are not free to choose the consequences of our action. And this is where we all as humans need to think deeply. Now, if you look at a very common working professional life cycle, you're living in a cosmopolitan life, securing comforts and luxuries, making a meal. You are traveling in a congested, crowded, polluted areas. For example, you all might have heard about New Delhi's condition as the most polluted city in the world. Shanghai is also competing with New Delhi. Now that person comes to home all tired, all dead. He pick up a glass of wine or a whiskey and he goes to the bed, and again the cycle continues. So as a human, you are not being fed rightly. It's just that you are working, waking up every single day, going to work, coming back all tired, and you are all lost. Now I would like to bring over here how travel and tourism can change the picture. I call travel and tourism as a non-pharmaceutical intervention to improve your mental health and well-being condition. Most of the time we depend heavily on our medications, like for anxiety and depression and maybe post-traumatic disorder. We always prefer to go to doctor and eating a lot of medicines. But there are researches, including mine, which was published in a Journal of Travel and Tourism Marketing. I'll share it with the organizers as well so that people can read it. A lot of times, if you are going through mild or moderate mental health anomalies, travel and tourism could be a transformative tool. If you're going to forest therapy, take example of Japanese technique of Shinrin-yoku, forest pathing. Or if you're going in a wilderness area, if you are getting close to the nature, you prefer to get healed. You seek a lot of healing. You get time to talk to yourself, know yourself better, where I was right, where I was wrong, what could be more better action in a particular situation. And this is where travel and tourism is coming in picture. The problem is the disconnect between nature and humans. Most of us are living in concrete jungles. Take any example, India is one of the most populous countries. Look at China, look at other emerging economies in the world, highly densely populated, and we are divided from nature now. We rarely see trees and birds in big cities now. All of us are living crowded in polluted areas. But the moment we travel to Himalayas, practice meditation, practice yoga, or maybe just, again, one of the professors talked about soundscapes. If we are listening to the rustling of leaves, wind, sound of water, that is a therapeutic intervention which one can seek, which one can get healing from. But for that, you need to travel to the destinations that offer natural landscapes, soundscapes. And this is what we prefer to talk about while we are talking about mental health anomalies. Reaching to the destination of happiness, you need a non-pharmaceutical intervention. The whole world is suffering from mental health anomalies. It is one of the biggest endemic, I should say. COVID made us recognize that thing. And even the United Nations President Chief very rightly said about it, that the biggest aftermath in the post-COVID-19 world would be mental health and well-being. I'm very fortunate to listen to very much innovative ideas from the esteemed panelists. And my sincere thanks to the organizer for bringing this very significant issue to be discussed. But, we need to find out certain activities. We need to go through the prominent researchers' paperwork, which are working in this area. Maybe escape to a cultural festival. We have a place called Nasik in India, which is organizing wine festivals. You can have a cultural gathering. You can also have a workshop maybe about writing, exploring your whole hobbies, taking time for yourself. I'm just closing my presentation over here in terms of my talk today that I delivered, but the world needs healing. People need healing. We are suffering internally. We lost our friends, our family members during the COVID time. We all need healing presently. We are having fear of losing a job, maybe a lot of predictions are coming up in recession, but how we are going to control our life. I give you a quote by the Dalai Lama, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Material progress and higher standard of living bring us greater comfort and health, but do not lead to transformation of the mind, which is the only thing capable of providing healing peace. So we all need transformation. Travel and tourism could be a therapeutic intervention. It could lead us to transform our life, to live our life in a better way. I add, and I close my words, my presentation with these words to the viewpoint of what Dalai Lama said, that the shoots of transformation for peace and happiness rise from the seeds of disturbance and crisis. And what a seed experience inside the soil is indescribable. So with this webinar, I humbly appeal each and every one of you to take time for yourself, spend time in nature, go travel, be happy, meet with different people, develop compassionate behavior towards environment, towards people, towards society, and look at the change that you feel inside you. So thank you very much for this. I close my points.
Dr. Rohan Bala, thank you so much. I think we can all hear the urgency in your voice and agree with you that we are nurtured by nature. And, those material things aren't going to be the thing that'll make us happy. Also, it kind of addresses a little bit if you have to have affluence or wealth to find travel as your healing, out of depression. And I think that's what gave rise to the concept of staycation, or really just bike riding and, somewhere on the edge of your city. You don't have to go halfway around the world. Although for some people it works and it's great. But it's a perfect segue into our next speaker, who's Jocelyne Dubuc of Quebec in Canada. And I've been to her spa. She's kind of known in Canada as the goddess or godmother of spas, because hers was the first destination spa resort. And having chatted with her last summer, and she's was a guest on my TV show, she has used all of her accumulated knowledge, and she puts that out to the guests at the spa resort, whether they know it or not. For example, in her dining room, you're not going to get any bread with gluten, but you would never know it because it tastes so good. So you're going to get slow cooked food because she knows the healthy way to do it. So I just love the way she sneaks those things in at her resort, but it's because she has such an incredible amount of information about health and wellness and spirituality. And just from a technical standpoint, she obtained a teaching degree in history and geography, and she became interested in alternative medicine and psychology. And during a stay in India in the 70s, she pursued her studies in meditation and yoga. But I'm going to let her tell the rest of the story. And would just like to welcome Jocelyne Dubuc of Spa Eastman. Welcome, bienvenue.
Merci, thank you very much. I'm very happy that you have created that platform, Sorry, I'm French. I learned my English in India, so it has a kind of special color. But thank you to create that, And I have been in touch with the people that spoke before me. How it started for me is that as a teacher, I experiment a cure. 2 days of fasting, 15 days of healthy food, I would say just grapes. Then it created a huge change in me. And then I discovered yoga, meditation. It's 50 years ago. And I felt so great. And I said, how can I share that? That's how I started the story. How can I share that? We started becoming vegan, at that time, at the end of the 60s. For me, it was the best way to produce a healthy destination. But then suddenly, I would say knowledge and open mind and checking what will be the best for my clients as an experiment in such a way that they will experiment healthy food without even knowing. That was my secret, I would say. They would just say, oh, sorry. they will just say, oh, it's such a good food. And where we are now, after 45 years of Spiceman growing, you know, where you've got all kind of activities, people will come here for real vacation, but then they will have a surrounding in the nature where they could experiment Shirinyuku, you know, those forest baths, where they will have massage, and suddenly they experiment peace inside of them. And the road will be by itself, the road inside of them to find peace through the activity or no activity. So the last jump for us as, I would say, as what can I offer to people that then suddenly they will feel better, but in their health, in their, and the discover that I did was the Dr. Signalet. And I will share you something about the Dr. Signalet because I know he's not well known. This doctor in France had the, I would say, scientific intuition that why all those sickness, those ailments. Is it possible that it's because the food has been so much changed? How can we create a food that will not create inflammation in the body? So this doctor, can we share this thing? I will try to make it, you know. So this doctor tested 2,500 people. Those people were very sick. They had, he tested 115 ailments. And 115 ailment disease, it's a lot of disease. And 91 came in remission at over 80% with this type of diet. And me, my challenge was, how can we make gastronomy, you know, big healthy food, beautiful, and at the same time, people cure themselves, I would say almost without knowing. It seems very interesting, very, maybe, how is it, you know? So what we did, we create that food here that is without gluten, without gluten, without dairy product, low in hydrocarbon, in sugar, high in lipid, good fat. And you see, you know, lactofermentation, sprout, germination, and cooking the food at low temperature, the meat at low temperature. My aim was to find the scientific rules in such, and create that kind of food. So that's how we created tonic cuisine. And my objective was that, okay, that's good to have massage. Yoga is so good. Mental health, you know, mental health, we could say it's psychological, but through those knowledge I discovered, it's biological also. We are biochemical. How can we take care of the biochemical in our body in such a way that it creates serotonin, endorphin, I hope it's the right way to say it in English, dopamine, all those hormones that create happiness by itself. And we are biochemical. So how can we create a cuisine that people will just say, oh, it's so good, I feel good. So, and I have, of course, after 45 years, you know, a lot of experiment. People come here, often they don't even know that we are doing that. Then suddenly they discover that if they are diabetes, you know, oh my God, my diabetes is going lower, you know, how is it? Food. Of course, they will do the cold and hot, you know, all those thermotherapy, yes. But the main thing it's food. So, and what I see as an industry, we have the chance to really create an experiment for our client, you know, because in our industry, I mean, if you've got a hotel, a restaurant, you've got the power to offer what you want. And can we create such an experiment that people will feel better? And then I would say tourism is really create a platform to create healthy experiments. Peux-tu la changer? Je me souviens plus là. So I just want to share that for me to be able to be recognized by this Global Culinary Travel Award, we just received that 2 months ago, and it was a shock. What I see is that tourism is really now catching this need of our client, as you all said, you know, and I'm so happy that some people like are created like the chief officer happiness, you know, program for our staff. And on all level, we need to work so the experiment become a wow. So here's at Spoisman, we let the client just experiment and we see the result. So I don't know how much time I have now, but
I think 1 more minute.
Oh, that's good. So what we have created is a program that will do cure with juice and art of living to learn how to cook. And besides that, what is very important for me is to create such a place that people don't feel that they are obliged to go to activity. You know, to be quiet, peaceful, and then experiment the food. And then, okay, do the hot and cold. So we can create such a place where people really unwind. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Merci, Jocelina. And the spa is in the Eastern Townships, which is just an hour drive east of Montreal. So it's a very nice staycation. There's lots of beautiful places to walk and enjoy the area. It's just beautiful.
We've got 15 kilometers of trails, and we have just been recognized for our forest now with the program of Shirin-Yoku. That's true that nature is also healing, you know. Yeah.
Beautiful. Merci beaucoup. Our next speaker is Dr. Sharon Paris Chambers, and she's the co-founder and president for Pana-Carib Business Solutions, headquartered in Jamaica. It's a tourism, health and wellness marketing communications company that has focused competencies in marketing, public relations, and health and wellness consultations, news production and distribution via the news portal, caribnewsroom.com. A leader in the development of health tourism, Sharon was instrumental in helping to establish Jamaica as a health and spa destination from 2005 to 2009 through working collaboratively with Jamaica's Ministry of Tourism and its agencies. So we'll welcome Sharon Paris Chambers.
Hi, thank you so much, Bea. I am not a doctor yet, but if I keep going, I'll get there. Greetings to Taleb Rafai. Of course, thank you to the organizers, Risa Sultani, yourself, Bea, and ladies and gentlemen, and I just say blessings to IIPT and Dr. Lou Damore, with whom I've worked, for his incredible work of peace through tourism. You know, in travel and tourism, the foundation is hospitality. And when you deconstruct hospitality, the word, you get hospital -ity. Take off the ity and you get hospital. And only sick people go to hospitals. So what do we have? We have people who are sick and tired of their jobs, sick and tired of the cold weather. We have people just sick and tired of being sick and tired, their husbands, their wives, the material world, and they want to detox from technology, right? So that gives us the opportunity now to offer them what we have. right? We have vacations, opportunities to vacate the mind and to give them back what they're missing. Yes, give them back peace, tranquility, and a oneness of spirit. That's me in St. Lucia, just enjoying a juve. We did the icebreaker, and we have a background about why people travel. And that was the reason for health tourism and medical tourism in particular. But that's the reason for travel in general. People travel the millennia to vacate, rejuvenate, revivify, to return to life, return to wellness, balancing the mind, body, and spirit. And public baths were once a very popular way to do that. And we see that before 2500 BCE in ancestral spaces in Africa, Indo-Kush, and Asia, baths were the precursor for contemporary spas and represent among multiple eras of social development. And we have the pre-Neolithic and the early Kemet, Kush, Nubian, and later Egyptian societies that have shared the various techniques. Then we have the Roman, the Gregorian. I want to share with you what that looked like, the Neolithical view to bath in 18th, 19th centuries, right? Bath was a spa city in England. And it became a World Heritage Site in 1987. Spectacular. Notice how nature is an inherent part of this growing metropolis here. Bath Fountain, St. Thomas, Jamaica, has developed as a societal response to the growing popularity of mineral springs, rejuvenating bath spaces and spa destinations that provide appropriate picturesque settings and facilities for what? For rejuvenating and revivification, giving you back your life. So here we have Bath, St. Thomas of the Apostles, Jamaica, in nature. This is us. We haven't put any Neolithic or modern structures around. All we have is raw, pure nature. You see that bamboo pole there? Yes, it's bringing water from the hills and the mountains, and see water trickling down. It was founded in 1693. It's a wellness spa for locals. You know, apparently someone who was very sick or during times of slavery, people ran there and their bodies healed very quickly. And the government decided, well, let's use this as a way for local rejuvenation. And soon, very soon after that, it became a thalassotherapy attraction, right? Thalassotherapy, that's where you heal from the water, the minerals in the water. People, it is known that thalassotherapy, which is very popular in Greece and different parts of Europe, people suffering from anxiety, stress, and depression, also rheumatism and skin ailments, can benefit highly from these beautiful places. When it's a thermal spring, the benefit is even greater. And Bath St. Thomas has that capacity, 136 degrees Fahrenheit, 58 Celsius. What does the water contain? Sulfur, bicarbonate, fluoride, silica, and other trace elements. It is exceptional to the skin because of the plankton in the water, also causing relief of pain, rejuvenation, and restoring of health. Interventions for mental health, travel therapy has taken precedence over other forms of therapy, which we have art and we had dance, but travel therapy offers so much more to lift the melancholy affect, creating peace and happiness within. And of course, when you eat the food that Madame de Brock mentioned, you know, devoid of the toxins, you can bring out the serotonins, right? The happiness hormones. Recently, a published journal in tourism management found that the experience of going on vacation can be beneficial for people with dementia. Naturally, here are some of the benefits. And those who struggle, and for those who struggle with other mental illnesses. Researchers review the potential benefits, and also a doctor who just spoke mentioned it from China, and we're grateful for her research. Travel may help improve well-being of those struggling with mental distress. Yes, and I say for persons who are experiencing death, divorce, and other stressors high in the stress scale, travel is an essential, a must. Exploring new environments, of course, through travel will assist with the stress. This, of course, is open for further discussion and research. Here are my testimonials, and I'm concerned about time, but this is a place that found
Can you hear me?
No,
can't hear me. Far out.
Okay, this is a place that found me. It's Negril, Jamaica, Travelers Beach Resort. In 1998, great. My husband and I returned.
Okay,
what
great.
Was that?
Thank you.
Okay, I didn't hear you, B.
No, I think somebody was not muted for a second there. I think it's okay now.
Okay. In 1998, my husband Theo and I returned from Atlanta, Georgia, to this beautiful place called Negril. Now, it is my home, Jamaica, but I'd never been to Negril. These are the magnificent sunsets we have in the Western Jamaica. We were captivated by how people let down their guards. They were happy and they were sociable. This is the capital of casual, and it's also where hedonism is located. Real hedonism. We didn't know that. Hedonism was such a popular attraction until we got to Negril. We discovered people from all over the world are attracted to this destination for, as I said, it's a casual, it's fun, the beautiful sunsets, and the people are incredible. In 30 days, we returned to Capital Casual and we got married there. We were captivated. Recently, I went to St. Lucia, and we found it to be a fabulous place, 184,000 people. What we found was a place that anyone would enjoy. It was a place that the doctor would order. Mount Kailash Rejuvenation Center is what you're looking at in Castries. The mountain bliss, the mountain air was absolutely healing for me. Perfect, picture perfect days, morning tributes with my Orisha Oshun, water, being in the water, giving my praise and tribute to the water was totally healing. Visit to the Boba Shanti ceremonies that were happening there. There was a conference happening at the same time. Listening to their praise worship was enough to vacate and pacify my mind. I also attended a goddess retreat there. And I couldn't find the pictures in time to put them in here, but the women were so loving, they were so open. And that has inspired me to produce a goddess retreat in Jamaica, May 6th through 2023 at the Temple of Inner Peace, a beautiful oasis in Westcliff Estate, Jamaica. Culture and historical travel is very important too for those who feel displaced from their source. Here I return to my source, which is Mother Africa, where the displacement took place over 600 years ago. The priestesses are here and we're preparing for a libation to give thanks. It says Ghana, but it's Gambia. I'm in the middle. There I am, returning through the door of no return in Alberta, Gambia. What a feeling of joy. I was moved to tears. We were standing in front of a dungeon on the Kunta Kinte Island, where many were taken and never to return. And there I was returning, and it was just a mental shift took place. The need for travel, therefore, to help individuals find experiences to interpret self, meet new friends, learn new coping mechanisms, elevate one's consciousness, the overall experience creates a mental shift. And as I said, returning to Mother Africa was such a beautiful thing for me. I am a whole person, and I am I recommend travel and tourism, and I recommend being a peaceful traveler, as the IIPT suggests. Finally, there's a quote that I'd like to share, and it says, happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one remembers to turn on the light. Turn on the light in your consciousness by being happy wherever you are in the world, but travel must be a part of that experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon Paris Chambers. That was lovely. And I've written down the dates of the Goddess Retreat. And I've been to hedonism too, and it is really quite wonderful. And
Yes.
I feel quite lucky. I've also been to Bath. So I totally
Wow, what a traveler you are, Bea.
Lovely places, for sure. Thank you once again. We are going to see if we can connect again with Dr. Birgit Trauer, who I mentioned some things about her earlier, but I'd also just like to say that she put out a book called The Way of the Peaceful Traveler, Dare to Care and Connect, which sounds just fabulous. I'd like to hear more about that. But let's welcome Dr. Birgit Trauer.
Thank you very much, Breda, and I hope you can hear me. Thumbs up.
Yes.
Great. Patience pays off, as the saying goes. I've obviously been trying to make sure that I can talk to all of you, you can hear me, while I've been listening to your presentations, with glee. Thank you very much. I think we're all on the same page as to promoting mental health and happiness. And yes, the way of the peaceful traveler is certainly the way to go. Actually, in the book, I have addressed many things that have been addressed by various speakers today, including going into the emotions that we experience while we travel, the needs that we have, the values that drive our choices for travel, the person that we travel with, all influencing our experiences and our behaviors and how we connect with each other. So that is the premise. So if you are going to be interested in that, that book is available on Amazon, and you can get it also via my webpage, The Cultural Angle. Okay, so many things have been mentioned and so many comments I would love to make. One comment just sticks out in my mind because it sort of relates to what I'm going to talk about. And let me just see if I, in a minute, can share my screen, and hopefully that works. Someone said, the main thing is food. And I love that, because without food, we cannot live. I'd like to change that expression to the main thing that we need is love. That is the food that we need for our souls, no matter who we are, no matter where we live, no matter where we travel to. And that is the premise, actually, of my presentation. That aligns from an academic perspective to the benefits of leisure, which is my grounding. My first degree was in leisure studies before I then specialized in tourism. So I combined the two fields and used leisure within the commercialized context of tourism. And tourism, we can't forget, is a microcosm of society. So what happens in travel and tourism happens at home. So we cannot disconnect the two, and should always bear that in mind, particularly when we look at mental health and happiness. It might happen while we are on holidays. What happens when we get home? What is it that we carried into our holidays? What happened at home then? So it's always interconnected. Okay, let me try and put my screen out and see if that happens here. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see, yes.
Okay, let me just, again, slideshow. Okay, you can hear me, you can see me, you can see the slides. Top. As you can see by the title, mine is about intimacy tourism in many ways. And for those who are sort of regular viewers of tourism webinars, know that not too long ago, at the beginning of June, we actually ran a webinar on intimacy and tourism. My special interest tourism and my adventure tourism and intimacy, again, are all interrelated. Nothing ever exists in isolation. So the title of my presentation is actually Romantic Competence for a World of Healthy Relationships. I would like to say that the reason why I've chosen that is because of what I've said. The food that we're really looking for is love, and that is to find that within our relationships that we exist in, or the ones we seek. And for that, we need to actually have competencies. We have to have skills, not unlike Sandra introduced the skills that we need to operate within the commercial domain or within academia and education. It all comes back to relationships, no matter the context. So romantic competence as such relates to love relationships, because that's what we all need. What I've proposed again here on the next slide in regards to what we've talked about today is that I believe, and I think all of us in a way believe, that travel and tourism has become a psychological couch. And so often in travel and tourism, we talk about visitor economies or experience economies, don't we? That relates back to leisure. What are we experiencing? It's an economy talking about. I believe where we are at now is we are in a relationship economy, where everybody looks for intimacy, to connect with other people, because that's what feeds our soul. Unfortunately, the rising number of disconnect, of breaking down relationships, of divorces is a sign that we're struggling with that nourishing food of love relationships. For that, again, as I say at the first slide, we need competencies. Now, relationship economy, as one can see from the title, relates to relationship. And who hasn't been in relationships? Gained love, lost love. And then we wonder, what kind of relationships are we actually looking at or looking for as we travel through life? On holidays and at home. Are they any different? There's a lot of things that we can say about that, but we'll leave that for another time. So with that, as I suggested early on, I propose the value of a romantic competence. Now, that particular framework has actually been researched and publicized by Professor Joanne Davila and her team, quite a few people. The study was actually undertaken amongst youngsters, because they are the ones supposed to be mainly looking for new partners, to be in relationships, aspiring to romance. We cannot deny that we live in a society that is dominated by romance. Where are we not surrounded by messages of romance? TV, social media, magazines, love songs. We hear it everywhere. So our minds are saturated for seeking romance. What romance is to one is not necessarily romance to the other. Something possibly clarify. But what romantic competence suggests that we need insight to know who we are. And I think a lot of people already have alluded to that. Who are we? Where do we come from? What is it that we want? How do we communicate? How do we connect? We talk about love languages in the context of psychology and so forth. How do we interact to create happy, healthy relationships? The other component where we are within that framework teach skills and knowledge is mutuality. And mutuality, again, is very, very important. Often forgotten in our individualistic societies. It's all about me rather than we, and it's all about us in relationships. It's about the individuals, but it's also very much about the relationship. And that's where the mutuality comes in. We have to be conscious of the fact, if we are looking for happiness within relationships and looking for the food of love, that we have to look at mutuality. It's not just within ourselves. We are social beings. We always connect. Within that mutuality, of course, and I think Sandra was specifically referring to that, we need the capacity for emotion regulation. We are all familiar probably with the trend for emotional intelligence. Some people call it emotional agility, which I like, which Susan David refers to in her book and her presentations, with a reference to the needs and values that we are actually driven by and motivated by. So emotion regulation is important to learn the vocabulary of how we feel and so forth, to be able to share with other people. That's the first step, because we have to tune into our emotions, how we feel. Then we can ask, why do we feel the way we do? Because perhaps some of the needs haven't been met, or have they been met? Which way have they been met? Something to explore. So when we asked, how do you feel today? Let's think about, why do we feel the way we do? So a lot of it has to do with intimacy, as the last webinar that I was involved in highlighted. Now, people think straight away when they hear the word intimacy, generally associated with sexual intimacy, is it not? Particularly in a culture where we're surrounded, again, bombarded with sexual images. It's all about sex, sex sells. However, when we look at the definition of intimacy, we can see there's a lot more to it. As this one says, knowledge of the core of something or someone, an understanding of the inmost parts. And that is what intimacy is all about. That which is indicative of one's deepest nature, mine and yours and everybody else's, and marked by close physical, mental, and social association. Happens during travel, happens at home. Then the next question would be, what type of intimacy are we seeking as we travel through life? At what age? Is it always the same intimacy? Is there only one kind of intimacy? No, there isn't, is there? And this list will show you that there's a lot more to the exploration of intimacy when we talk about the food for love and feeling happy, happiness and mental health. I have actually classified these all, sort of put them in little groups, as you can see. The first one is platonic intimacy, which is friendship, and we all need friendship. Good friends are most valuable. Intellectual intimacy, closeness in the world of ideas. I think our webinar here is actually a representation of intellectual intimacy in many ways. Emotional intimacy too, because we're all quite passionate about what we are doing. So emotional intimacy is very important. Physical intimacy, you can see, I separate from sexual intimacy quite on purpose. And we forget in our society that we need physical contact, which has become very prevalent in the time of COVID, where we were lacking that. Physical intimacy, nothing to do with per se with sexual intimacy. That is another stage. And that is a shared, consensual, trusting sexual encounter that adults engage in. Spiritual intimacy was alluded to also earlier. It's a connection to a higher purpose with life in and around us. And it's not just about self-actualization, as per the general pyramid of Maslow. It's about self-transcendence, where we open ourselves up to embrace the bigger picture, embracing the other. The other next categories you can see, aesthetic intimacy very much relates to travel and tourism, creative intimacy as well, and recreational, because that relates to the external, what we do, the places. We might want to reflect on those. Do we share that with our partner? Have we common interests in that? Do we see the world the same in that regard? The last three I've listed there, I think is also important to remind ourselves on, is conflict intimacy, facing and struggling with differences, something that is a challenge in our today's existence. People are not quite as open to really face conflict, and yet conflict is a way to find resolutions that are mutual, of mutual benefit. Commitment intimacy, sense of interdependence and pursuit of shared dreams. Peace was mentioned, and yes, I am also very much part and parcel aligned with the premise of peace, hence the way of the peaceful traveler. It is the interdependence that we all are now seeking, and it's shared dreams. The shared dream is peace, is love, to share that with everyone around the world. Travel and tourism certainly can contribute to that nicely. Communication intimacy, another area that I really try to promote in all my work. It is compassionate communication and mutual understanding. And that particular type of intimacy that I operate from and teach as well is actually non-violent communication. Again, the opposite, or it alludes to the notion of peace. So you can see intimacy is much bigger than just the normally pursued or perceived kind of intimacy. So,
Dr. Power, I'm afraid, you're just ending, yes, because we do have
yes, I'm just about to come to the
Okay.
end. Yes, yes.
Lovely.
So with that in mind, what I have done is actually taken all that knowledge, all that insight, and now propose travel into me see. We have to start with ourselves. That are the workshops that I'm proposing to run as of 2023. And with that in mind, also, I propose that we should be looking at the concept of intimacy tourism. Sex tourism, romance tourism, all sorts of different kinds of tourism. Wellness tourism is proposed. What about intimacy tourism? Isn't that what we're looking for when we're looking at peace? That is my last point that I'd like to make. And thank you very much. I'll leave you with this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Trower. And once again, all of your pages and information will be available on the website afterwards. We have one final speaker, and last but not least, and he's last because he's in Seattle. And when this webinar started, it was 6 a.m. So Reza gave him a bit of a break. So Dr. Jake Huppert is actually a colleague of mine. He's the CEO of the Transformational Travel Council, of which I'm a member. And TTC is a collective of global tourism stakeholders who refuse to skirt the challenging issues. Instead, we throw our boundless enthusiasm and well-researched knowledge and wisdom at them, determined to find a resolution. We stand for the betterment of lives and livelihoods through mindful travel, regenerative thinking, and conscious choice making. And Jake is all over that, and I can't wait to hear more. Jake Huppert. Jake, are you here?
I am here, yes. Good morning, B, or good afternoon, B, wherever you are.
I am in Winnipeg.
All right, so I still see the other deck up there. Okay, not anymore. First off, I want to, as much as I would like to claim that I am a doctor, I am not. So let's get that out, get that out in the open. Anyway, thank you for being here. And Birgit, thank you for that wonderful presentation. I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, it is about love. I actually one of my favorite lyrics from a song from Phosphorescent is, "I saw love and it came to me. It put its face up to my face so I could see." So I thought I'd share that just to honor you and your presentation. So I'm not seeing anything on my screen at the moment. Do you want me to share my screen?
Please share, yes, if you want to share it.
Okay, fantastic. All right, just getting the handles here. So as was mentioned, my name is Jake Huppert. I am the founder of the Transformational Travel Council based in Seattle. And Transformational Travel Council is all about transforming tourism and transforming the lives it touches. So today I'm hoping to take a few minutes of your precious time and share a few thoughts and insights and contribute some research that's been recently done through the Transformation Economy Collaborative that I will share here soon. All right, here we go. I'm going to try to get this over to presentation. There we go. Okay, we are off. That's much better. All right, so let me start with the question: are we thriving? I would say that we are far from thriving, but thanks to individuals in this panel and those and many of us in tourism that see opportunity to shift the paradigm, travel is becoming this amazing place of stretching and learning and growth and healing. life is just too fast. It's chaotic, right? It's just leaving us in this place of feeling disoriented. It's making us feel distracted, and worse of all, it's making us feel disconnected from what matters most in our lives. This is contributing to rapid increase in stress and depression, anxiety, delusion, and suicide. And it's even hitting close. It's hitting close to home with me. My son is 14 years old, and he struggles with ADHD. And we've had to move him into this great new high school that's providing him this wonderful support, because they actually see who he is and accept him for who he is and how his brain works. And it's such a gift, to society, to move from that linear and mechanistic way of thinking into a more divergent way of experience and contributing to life. So that strikes a chord with me, and I've seen the power that travel has on his life, and the opportunities to get into nature and really connect with Pachamama and Mother Earth, and the benefits that brings him. And a lot of that is what gets me, to rise up every morning and do this work around travel, because I do think it's such an incredible place for health, for improving mental health, finding more joy, and being more connected to who we are. Ultimately, as Joseph Campbell says, the goal of life is to make your heartbeat match the beat of the universe, to match your nature with nature. So I mentioned the Transformation Economy Collaborative that I'm part of. So this is a really exciting opportunity for our industry, and actually across all sectors, to really define, lead, and measure the transformation economy. Joe Pine, who is the thought leader of the experience economy and wrote the book in 1999 called The Experience Economy, sits on our advisory council, and his organization that with Dave Norton has decided to do this deep dive into, what is transformation and how can we guide transformation? What is the impact on customers? What is the impact on our businesses, and well beyond? And it's been absolutely an honor of a lifetime to work with these thought leaders, including other individuals and organizations from healthcare and from finance and from tech and from philanthropy, that are all recognizing the opportunity that guiding transformation gives to us as individuals to really understand and connect with the best versions of ourselves. And I think that I don't have to tell anybody on this panel, the benefit of connecting with your true self and the impact that has on our families and our communities, and the people and places that we visit when we travel. At the centerpiece of that and how it relates to travel, I want to highlight that it's this shift from engaging travel and tourism in a passive way and moving it into an active mindset. So no longer are we just experiencing or having experiences when we travel. We're actually setting aside time to set intentions, to be more present, to be more aware, and then go through a process of reflection and meaning making. All of this leads to the opportunity of taking meaningful action in your life. And that's when the transformation takes hold, whether that's a small T transformation or a big T. In this research that we're doing at the Transformation Economy, we've really distilled it down to three primary catalysts for transformation that may lead to someone to travel. Travel's always been this opportunity and this place, this space to explore, not just outwardly but inwardly. And what we've identified is that typically it's one of disruption. Something happens in our life, and it could be something traumatic. It could be an unforeseen event, but that'll often lead us to answer that call to adventure, want to depart on a journey. Another is discomfort, just that sense of like something seems off. Where am I right now? Where do I want to be, and how am I going to get there?
And then, of course, desire. Like a lot of people are really intentional about their growth and their personal growth, and they want to make really mindful choices, and they engage just about anything and everything in their life from a perspective of I'm going to look within. I'm going to use this opportunity to explore myself and become a better version of who I am. So some of those catalysts, there's life milestones. We're all familiar with those events in our lives that really prompt that desire to travel. It could be new relationships, right? That we may want to move on from an old relationship and engage in new relationships. We may be seeking more mission, be more mission oriented, seeking more purpose in our life. And as you go through that process, when you bring that mindfulness and awareness and that sense of presence, and really travel from the essence of who you are, you start to see different. You start to have this different point of view. You start to understand the world differently, and that's when we start to expand our perspectives, when we start to expand our consciousness. And then where does that lead us? Well, if we do differently on these trips, if we take more personal agency, if we're more informed, if we're more intentional with how we approach it, we start to see and understand how others live, right? We start to see the benefit of going outside of our comfort zone. We start to get in the flow of life, right? We start to understand all of it and connect with all the different synchronicities that are happening around us. And then when we get home, this is that opportunity for transformation. It might have been an aha, but it might have also been a slow burn, right? A connection to who you are and what matters to you and who do you want to be. And you start taking actionable steps, right? And that brings you new clarity. It brings you confidence. It brings you courage. And you end up being more open-minded, and you change your perception. And shortly after that mindset shift, your behaviors start to change, and you start to make more conscious and mindful behaviors, which is obviously good for you and the people and places you encounter in your lives. So in this study, this year-long study with the Transformation Economy Collaborative, we asked a series of individuals, imagine you're planning a trip to help you transform some part of your life, your well-being, and select your top 3 categories. Improve your physical health was number 1. Travel is an amazing opportunity to get out and be active and move your body, right? And come back and start to implement a new fitness routine, to gain knowledge and wisdom. And number 3, improve your personal well-being. In this time of chaos and this time of distraction, people are seeking change, but change is hard. And so that's what the Transformation Economy Collaborative is really about doing, is understanding that change is hard for us, and it should be guided, it should be supported. And that's the opportunity we have in travel to bring more intention to our customer journeys, to our experience strategy, to how we engage with our travelers so we can build deeper relationships that help them achieve these goals and these aspirations that they have when they're approaching travel. So when we talk about improving mental health, becoming happier, finding more joy, finding more fulfillment in your life, travel is this amazing opportunity, right? It gives us the space and grace to grow, but there's also plenty of data that supports that, like for my son, he's going to be able to feel better about who he is and connect with his strengths and come back with renewed energy and feel all sorts of different connection to life and to nature and to others, right? So travel, obviously this place, especially when you bring more intention to it and you start traveling to transform, you're developing a travel practice. Well-being ends up being something that is a part of every journey. You approach travel and, you go through a process instead of looking at it as a series of experiences or products, and you start to realize that it's an opportunity and space to find more meaning and purpose. And that is what's lacking in so many of us right now. We talked about the opportunity for travel to sort of disrupt our day-to-day, get us out from behind our screens and at our desks and moving and experiencing different activities. Maybe in exploring new opportunities to experience outdoors in a different way, right? Whether that be hiking or backpacking. And of course, and Birgit, you touched on this, that opportunity for connection, that opportunity for love and to feel a sense of intimacy in your life, so you can be grounded in this feeling of belonging that starts to reduce those feelings of stress and anxiety and depression. And ultimately, it's that shift in perspective, that getting out of our comfort zone and recognizing, like, I'm getting more uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. Travel is a place to practice this so we can bring it back and apply it to our day-to-day lives, and start to bring more emotional stability to our lives, right? Bring more intention to our lives, bring more joy and fulfillment to our lives. Now, at the TTC, we've done a deep dive for years into how can we really catalyze travel for stretching, learning, and growth and healing. And so this is just I'd like to share our foundational framework, right? So how can you develop a travel practice? How can you move from passively engaging travel to actively engaging transformations? And so what you see here is the process of travel that you can take each time that you head out your door. You can travel with this mindset and in this flow in your own neighborhood, in your own city, right? When you go into the mountains or you go to the beach, it is a mindset. And when we think about it, we're traveling every single time we drive to work or we run an errand. We just have to open our eyes and open our hearts to the opportunity to connect with nature and with others and to shift those perspectives. So with this process here, we've given some framework to how you go about that. You start with where I am. Where am I today? Why do I travel? Right? How do I plan and prepare differently? And when I go, how can I be more mindful? How can I be more present? How can I give more rather than take? How do I return, right? How do I take that feeling of being alive and really integrate that into my day-to-day life, right? And go through a process that allows you to take the wisdom, that newfound wisdom and these new ideas and these dreams that you have and start to activate in a real way. How do you sustain motivation? Right? How do you become self-accountable? How do you invite others into the conversation of your own transformation so they can help you, so they can guide you, and they can support you? And so it is our theory that, as you start to open up to traveling a little bit differently, not looking at it as this thing that's meant to be always hard or disruptive or transformational. There's plenty of space for joy and fulfillment and fun and tasting great food and wine, traveling, and experiencing all the amazing things of travel. But it is that opportunity to look within that is missing. So we invite people to really focus in on that yourself, right? You travel within first. Any real change that you want to make in your life or any real change that we want to make as a society requires that inward gaze, right? And we start to connect with our spirit, with our soul, and who we are and where we're going. And with that, we start to connect with others. Any real transformation is going to require that you have an idea of your identity. What are your perspectives? What are your perceptions? What are your beliefs? How do you stop looking at your beliefs and look through your beliefs? Right. And you start to build bridges with others. You start to see your privilege, right? And you start to heal from your own prejudice and your own racism, right? And then beyond that, you start to evolve into someone that's conscious of the systems that we're engaging, including nature. We build relationships with nature, right? So when we travel, we have this opportunity to see how we impact the lives that we touch, how we impact nature when we travel, right? And that all comes from a place of connection, a place of relationship, right? So if you continue to go on this sort of journey with following this framework, you're slowly going to be expanding consciousness into a place where you're engaging your home and the people that you love the most in a much more beautiful and enlightened way, right? And that's going to guide and inspire others to go on journeys of self-discovery, right? And hopefully follow a similar process that allows them to have deeper connections with others, deeper connections with nature. And that's how we start to really shift our systems. So I want to say heartfelt thank you to everybody for bearing with me this morning. It's a little early. My voice is a little crackly, I don't know if I've had enough coffee, so I hope that I was able to communicate effectively. But I invite you guys out there to take action. And there's a lot of travel professionals that are out there. We can all travel better, right? We can follow a similar process. We can stretch and learn and grow and bring that wisdom to how we design experiences, how we engage our travelers. And at the TTC, I welcome all of you to become ally members. We've got a community of around 275 ally members around the world, I think from 35 or 40 countries. We just all gathered for Transcend in Slovenia. B, I wish you were there. You missed out.
I know, me too. I had a conflict right up in there.
Wow, it's beautiful.
You can take our transformation design course. There are different ways that you can engage the TTC if you're interested in connection and new content. And a really amazing community to be a part of. So thank you very much for having me today. And yeah, onward.
Jake, thank you. You've wrapped up this entire topic just so beautifully. Thank you for your thoughts. And I believe the website is transformational.travel. So people can read more about allies, how to become one, and all the different projects and initiatives that this incredible group is involved in. So, and we've had quite a wonderful panel of speakers today. I can't get over it. So thank you everyone for all of your time. I'd also like to refer to the IIPT site because there's a lot of good information on there. That organization that's inspired so many of us, International Institute, founded a dear friend of many of us. So thank you, Louis, for starting all of this. And once again, thank you, Talib Rifai, your support in listening to these webinars is just so wonderful. And of course, Reza Saldani, without whom none of this would happen. Thank you so much for organizing these webinars, for finding people like this that we can learn so much from. Thank you for putting it all together. So I believe that wraps up our webinar. All of you that are watching, anytime that you want to go into any of these presentations, they're going to be on www.tourismwebinar.com forever, right, Reza? And all of the PowerPoint presentations, contact information. Reza will keep it all happening. So thank you and have a wonderful transformational day.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bridget, for doing so much. She has done lots of work on that, and Bea for so early waking up. And thank you all the speakers from around the world. Thank you so much, and see you next time. Thank you.
Blessed love.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jake. I think you can go back to sleep now if you didn't have too much coffee.
Great to see you, Jake. All the
Thank
best.
you, Reza.
Thank you very much.
Nice to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Merci, Madame Boubek.